very fast-moving, and we have to see, he doesn't have to rush. I mean, as is often the case, and we've seen the US military do the same, for example, in Iraq, the first wave of strikes tend to be things like cruise missiles taking out key command and control, key facilities, radio, television broadcasting, those kinds of things, to essentially decapitate the government, its ability to spread its message, its ability to operate, and the military as well.
President of Ukraine, President Zelensky, addressed the Russian people directly, saying, we do not want war, saying that the Russians have been watching a Ukraine that is not the real Ukraine.
We also know that the administration has been warning President Zelensky that his own personal safety is on the line and that he should leave Kiev. Now, that's something that he's refused to do because, of course, of the signal that it will send to the Ukrainian people.
He's been urging calm, and in the last, more recent hours, he has started to make his people aware of perhaps what's to come.
But the array of military resources that are at Vladimir Putin's disposal, that he's amassed around 3 sides of Ukraine, a whole array of options to strike from air using fighter aircraft, to send in missiles, to send in ground infantry troops, to launch cyber attacks. The one thing noteworthy, I think, at the moment, because there's been a lot of discussion that this would start with a large-scale cyber attack to essentially wipe out the cities and the country's ability to communicate with each other. So far, that certainly hasn't happened. I'm talking to you, the phone system's still working, the data system still seems to be working right now. But, if the worst comes to pass, we will see troops, tanks cross the border, and that's when things will get incredibly bloody. If it's just precision strikes on key targets, then the casualties potentially could be limited.
But that's the thing, Ian, is that this doesn't sound like it's a Crimea 2.0. This sounds much more like Putin is planning a takeover of a country, not a region.
Totally, yes. I think there's been a lot of debate about whether or not this would be a limited bolster of, essentially, not just pro-Russian, but we know that the Russian forces were essentially actively supporting the rebels in the east of the country, or whether there is a much larger attempt to try and take over the country physically. As I'm talking to you, I've just seen a large flame, ball of fire emerge on the horizon there.
Really?
I guess in a few seconds we'll probably hear the sound of that coming towards us. That is out towards the direction of the airport. Again, impossible because it's a number of miles away to say exactly what that is. And that's what Ukrainians are having to live with. We have the luxury of a return ticket as foreign correspondents. Ukrainians don't have that luxury. This is their land. In the last 24 hours, we met this young couple. The husband had been called up. He's one of these 36,000 military reservists with combat experience. A big guy, lovely couple. And there you go. I don't know if you caught that sound. That was the sound of the explosion that followed that ball of fire. It's just echoing, reverberating across the morning light as this mist rises, as the sun slowly starts to come up over the capital, Kiev. And that's what these people are having to live with. And right now, we're looking at the first armed conflict between 2 sovereign nation armies in Europe since the end of the Second World War. And this means not just a terrible consequence for the people of Ukraine, but for the wider continent of Europe.
That is scary to hear these explosions behind you, Ian. The fact that you can see these explosions now, I mean, they've come closer to Kiev. Martha Raddatz was actually told by a senior Pentagon official yesterday. They said, you are likely in the last few hours of peace on the European continent for a long time to come. Just the world looks very, very different this morning. Ian Panel, stay safe. Thanks so much, bud.
Thank you, Ben.
Next up on Start Here, he says being gay is okay, but teaching that to kids might not be. A Florida bill heads to a vote after the break.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any place else. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast, now streaming on ABC News Live.
It was a scary time. In the 70s, you had multiple bodies showing up in Los Angeles.
There were so many murders happening. You had to have a name for it. Serial killer.
There was a human head in there. This was premeditated evil.
We got this clock. This person is going to do this again.
It's me against the killer. Who's going to win?
We'll see who laughs last.
What came next was unlike anything they had ever seen.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, What You Need to Know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
I risked my life. I put my family in danger. If I was caught, they would have put a bullet in my head. But it was the right thing to do. It was the only thing to do.
Terror plot foiled in Garden City, Kansas.
That would have been one of the most deadly acts of domestic terrorism ever in the United States. It would have been Oklahoma City.
He put his family, himself, in jeopardy for us.
24 Hours, Assault on the Capitol, the ABC News original, exclusively on Hulu, now streaming. This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, let's move back. We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
Run, urgent delivery, run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
It's there's been any lesson for politicians heading into this midterm election year, it's been that more than mask mandates, more than COVID guidelines, the issue you can count on galvanizing people is, what are your children being taught in their school right now? How are they being taught in school? Do my kids have to wear masks? Do they have to be vaccinated? How do they learn about social issues like race?
You're injecting these concepts about choosing your gender. That is just inappropriate for our schools.
Well, later today, the Florida House is about to vote on a bill called the Parental Rights in Education Bill. You might have heard this called the Don't Say Gay Bill. It's seeing pushback from LGBTQ advocates as well as the White House. And we've got the sponsor of that bill with us this morning. Joe Harding is a Republican member of the Florida House of Representatives. Representative Harding, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me on.
Hey, so this bill, just one quote from it, forbids classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation or gender identity that's not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students. Essentially saying, don't talk about gay stuff too young. At what age is it appropriate to mention gay people in the classroom?
Well, what the bill says in that section is it says that instruction, it doesn't say discussion. I think that's probably the biggest misquote on the bill is that instruction and discussion are the same thing, and they're not. Instruction is curriculum. So what it says is instruction in kindergarten through third grade or is age appropriate or in line with state standards.
It doesn't clearly define what is age or developmentally appropriate, so this could really pit parent against parent or create this society of snitches almost.
This portion of the bill is specifically about kindergartners through third grade. The reason that the ORs are there is that we don't have a state standard right now for kindergartner through third grade on discussions like this relating to sex education, anything relating to this. So a new standard is going to be created. And when a state standard is created, what we want is the Board of Education, just like they determine with other state standards, to be age appropriate and kindergartner through third grade.
Children in kindergarten do not need to hear about 100 different sexual orientations, sexual preferences in reality, and gender identities.
On classroom instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity, you're saying, don't say gay, don't be gay, don't teach gay.
With this bill, what it's saying is we don't need gender instruction and sexual orientation instruction taught in kindergarten through third grade, regardless if it's instruction on being gay, on being straight, all of these different things. The point is families are families, let the families be families, and the school district doesn't need to insert themselves at that point when children are still learning how to read and do basic math.
So if you're saying what it doesn't cover, what does it cover? Like, are there real world examples that you guys had run into where you're like, this should not be taught under third grade?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why the bill exists. One, because it's good policy, and two, because we're trying to fix problems that we've seen. For instance, we have a couple school districts that are using a gingerbread figure to teach gender and sexual orientation to children as young as kindergarten.
I wouldn't want my 5-year-old learning about any sex from a teacher. That's something that I want to be having a conversation with my kid about when they're ready.
If you have to use a gingerbread man, you're probably doing something too soon. If you have to use a unicorn, we have a school district that was using a unicorn. And again, where I really have an issue with is right now in Florida, we have a state standard where we start introducing reproductive health and anatomy and all the things that come with that in 4th and 5th grade, depending on what piece of that we're talking about. So why would we want to start instruction teaching literally using a gingerbread man that has sexual organs on it and has different graphics within that to show that this is what different types of gender are. This is what
boys and girls. I mean, they do know they're boys and girls when they come to school. We divide them in like we had a boys line and a girls line. Like you know what genitalia are because that's how you were taught what boys and girls were. So the gender identity stuff, there are versions of kids just having to learn that. When it comes to sexual orientation, I mean, is there a moment where if a teacher is saying, hey, Sally's mom and dad bought her a teddy bear this weekend, could that teacher not say Sally's 2 dads bought her a teddy bear?
Absolutely can. Yesterday we had over an hour of questions, and not a single one of those questions landed because the reality was every one of those questions was a hypothetical that isn't covered in the bill.
Can we please stop saying that being LGBTQ is such a sensitive topic? It is 2022. LGBTQ folks are in committed, legally recognized marriages. We don't need to be roommates and special friends anymore. We're not going to hide in plain sight.
They're calling it offensive, discriminatory, say that we're going backwards here, and that this basically sends a message to the LGBTQ community that their existence is so inappropriate here that it shouldn't even be discussed in the classroom.
Anytime a teacher would be talking about a family, regardless of the makeup, is a win for me, because I think that's one of the issues we have in our school district is more involvement from the family. Like every teacher in America could agree that more parental involvement leads to better education. Now, unfortunately, the teacher unions don't feel that way, and the school districts don't feel that way, but I know our teachers do.
But I'm confused. Like you're saying like a sort of off-the-cuff conversations, they're fine. Just don't write them into the curriculum, because this law has been criticized for being vague to the point where teachers will just censor themselves because they don't want to break the law. Are you saying you would just rather have a teacher, I don't know, like talk about this all on the fly?
No, what I want is students to bring up things organically because that's what kids do. They ask a question. So let me give you an analogy because I think that will help. Think about history. We teach history based on grade levels. So my kindergartner will know who Abraham Lincoln is, and they will know that he's honest Abe, he's never told a lie, he's really tall, had a beard, wore a big hat, right? That's probably about what they know. What they don't know is that during that time is that Abraham Lincoln was president during the most bloody war in America's history, right? Because we agree that teaching a kindergartner and showing kindergartner pictures of dead soldiers is probably just not age appropriate. Just like we have movie ratings, right? We talk about like things are appropriate at certain ages. Doesn't mean we won't teach them about what Abraham Lincoln is.
Sure, but it sounds like if a kid said, I'm a little boy or I'm a little girl, no one would have a problem with it. I'm trying to figure out, because critics of this bill have said it's essentially saying LGBTQ kids, anyone who's not, just a heteronormative kid, is taboo. Let's not talk about like what those groups of people are going through right now. Let's save that for a few years. Does that not create the sense that they are separate and shameful in some way?
No, it's not true. So yesterday I had a question that was asked, and again, if there was substantive debate that somehow in our bill is eliminating if there is a trans student at kindergarten, first and second grade, third grade in a classroom, preventing them from being able to talk about the identity that they are.
It sends a dangerous message that conversations about us in the classroom in and of themselves are dangerous.
The representative that was asking that question, asked it because because of the Twitter war and the whole reality of what they read. But that representative, I know that representative, they know bills well. If he could prove that, they would have. The reality is they can't because it's not in the bill. It's been what's made up around the bill.
Last question, and just because I think this hits so personally, what do you tell somebody when we know that LGBTQ youth report high rates of depression, high rates of mental illness, high rates of suicide because of this feeling that they are being singled out, because they're just wrong? What do you say to the parent who says kids are going to end up dead because of something like this, because of this kind of verboten language that is in this bill?
Well, Brad, what I tell them is that the reason that we see those statistics is because the school districts have gone out of their way to push the family and push the parents, the people that know those students best, out of their life.
It's cruel, it's harmful, and it is certainly something that is not helping, young people who are members of the LGBTQI plus community who are already vulnerable, already being bullied.
The answer is the parent and the teacher working together to create a safe environment for the student, regardless of who the student is, regardless of what.
You're saying this will make LGBTQ kids feel safer?
It will create a safer environment. We're not preventing any speech. I keep saying it. Nowhere in the bill we're preventing speech. Nowhere in the bill we're preventing kids from being the person they are and being kids. What we're preventing is a school district deciding they're going to create a curriculum to insert themselves, reinserting the parent's role and creating a safe environment at the same time where the teacher and the parent working together.
All right, and this bill being voted on today in the House has backing in the Senate, and even Governor Ron DeSantis, Republican in Florida, has signaled he may well sign this. So you could see the sign in the law soon. Joe Harding, representative from Florida, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, we're going to take one more quick break. When we return, if you had a robot, what would you tell it to do? And don't say ask for 1,000 robots. One last thing is next.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any place else. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast, now streaming on ABC News Live.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, What You Need to Know, now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
I risked my life. I put my family in danger. If I was caught, they would have put a bullet in my head. But it was the right thing to do. It was the only thing to do.
Terror plot foiled in Garden City, Kansas.
That would have been one of the most deadly acts of domestic terrorism ever in the United States. It would have been Oklahoma City.
He put his family, himself in jeopardy for us.
24 Hours, Assault on the Capitol, the ABC News original, exclusively on Hulu, now streaming. This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
We're surrounded by people
squeezing into the bomb shelter. Run, urgent delivery, run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
National parks are incredibly safe places. Crime will happen.
My wife is home. She's in really critical condition.
At that time, I thought it was just a tragic accident. There's still a lot of questions we need to ask.
There were small things that didn't totally add up.
This is too high for Harold that have died now. I was shocked. Something's not right.
One last thing.
Astro, go to the hallway.
This is the sound of a human controlling Amazon's first at-home robot.
Astro, find Celeste.
For several months, Amazon has been selling its little robot, Astro, to people who want to be part of a test run. There are enough in the world now where videos of the thing have started leaking. And truthfully, it's pretty impressive. It's a little screen on wheels, about the size of a chihuahua, that cheerfully wheels around your house. You get its attention by saying its name. Its eyes literally light up when it hears your voice. And with just a few words, it can navigate to the desired spot in your home. The only question is, then what? Amazon has marketed this as part of its home security system, something that can quietly patrol your home using facial recognition to call out anything it doesn't recognize. It can also serve as a very dutiful assistant, an Alexa that follows you from room to room. But its most popular use so far is as a drink carrier. These leaked videos all seem to involve an owner eventually sending a beer to someone else in the house without schlepping all the way to the den themselves. And this is a time-honored American tradition, having amazing technology and not really having the imagination to harness it. Microsoft created a tablet computer in 2000, 10 years before anyone had heard of an iPad, but the internet wasn't able to support streaming content back then, which is what most of us use these things for now. When a husband and wife created this really weird puffy fabric in the 50s, they sold it as a funky wallpaper. It took a decade before anyone thought to use it as what we now call it, bubble wrap. So what you got now are a growing number of Americans with a robot that can literally recognize your face and warn you about the stranger down the hall. It is far beyond what our forefathers could have imagined, and yet it's stuck doing the jobs we can imagine, one cold one at a time. It's like when you turn on your robot vacuum just to watch it do the thing you could already do. It's just doing it more slowly. Like, this was supposed to free you up, but you just had to stand there watching the thing. We got more news on the Ukraine crisis breaking seemingly every hour or so over on abcnews.com or the ABC News app. I'm Brad Milkey. See you tomorrow.
Now with With so much on the line, more Americans are turning to David Muir and ABC's World News Tonight than any other program across all of television. Right now, with so much at stake, Sunday mornings, this is the place. Taking on all the tough questions. Straightforward reporting. No spin, no hype, no bull. Thank you for making ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos the #1 Sunday morning news show versus the competition.
Welcome to This Week. World News Now.
And America This Morning.
The best new video.
Breaking news overnight.
Your money and concerns about inflation.
The pandemic is not over.
The stories people are talking about.
You want to shake your legs? Jump. I was gonna say. And what to expect in the day ahead.
From the top of the world, baby! ABC World News Now and America This Morning.
Weekday morning starting at 2 a.m. Eastern.
Up all night to keep you up to date.
It was a scary time. In the 70s, you had multiple bodies showing up in Los Angeles.
There were so many murders happening. You had to have a name for it. Serial killer.
There was a human head in there. This was premeditated evil.
We have this clock. This person is going to do this again.
It's me against the killer. Who's going to win?
We'll see who laughs last.
What came next was unlike anything they had ever seen.
Take America's #1 news with you anywhere you go, anytime, free. Download the ABC News app now. Breaking news, exclusives, 24/7. There for you with one touch. The ABC News app. Download it now.
She was
Diva.
Drama, money and fame,
Shaw Amazing,
the prime housewife.
Then suddenly, we've seen a lot of things on The Real Housewives, but we've never seen anyone be arrested.
Unpredictable rich woman. Sign me up.
They were a killing team.
A mother and daughter poisoning her family members.
I mean, this is unheard of. Who does that?
I knew they were drinking antifreeze.
What? Nobody just drinks antifreeze.
It's incredible.
They never talked publicly until now. How is it that you could kill your own family?
There's more to that than what people know.
What is the truth, Diane?
The new 2020, Friday at 9, 8 Central on ABC.
Is that the gun?
It's not a gun.
What is it? I won't ask you again then. Are you a Nazi?
The deeper you go into black markets,
People to a life like this.
the darker it gets.
Why hasn't anyone come out and spoken?
It's about the money. That's all I'm doing.
Trafficked. New episodes Wednesdays at 9 on National Geographic. Right now on America This Morning, breaking news. Russia attacks Ukraine. A large-scale invasion underway at this hour. Air raid sirens blaring in several cities, missiles targeting Ukrainian air bases. Ukraine's president declaring martial law. Our correspondents are there across the country with the very latest.
Plus, how President Biden is responding, what the White House is saying this morning, and the impact here at home. Cyber threats, higher food and gas prices, and stocks plunging overnight.
Also this morning, winter storm alert from snow, sleet, and ice to flooding rain. Treacherous travel as far south as Texas. We time out the worst conditions.
Racing from gridlock, truck drivers protesting COVID restrictions hit the road, heading to Washington, D.C. Security preparations right now.
And on this historic day, with a new war breaking out in Europe, a closer look at Russian President Vladimir Putin, the history that brought him here, and his strategy going forward. Our experts weigh in.
From ABC News in New York, this is America This Morning.
Good Thursday morning, everyone. We begin with a military invasion that many experts